I have no request to speak.
Great, thank you. So we'll begin with presentation on hazardous materials in Fountain Valley. This will be presented by Fire Chief Chris Nigg and team. Welcome.
Welcome. Thank you, Mayor, City Council. This evening, I'm actually going to hand it over to Division Chief of Operations, Tim Saiki, to discuss not only our prevention efforts, inform you all and educate what's going on in our city from a hazardous materials standpoint, and then an operational response should we ever have any issues in the city. And then at the end, if you have any questions for me, I'll be available as well.
Great, thank you.
All right, good evening, Mayor and members of City Council. Thank you for the opportunity to allow us to present an overview of how we respond and what we have in our city as far as hazardous materials go. As you know, May 21st of this year, Garden Grove experienced a major hazardous materials incident at GKN Aerospace that drew regional and national attention to the risk posed by chemical storage here in the urban parts of Orange County. A tank containing methyl acrylate began to overheat and pressurize after refrigeration system failure, and ultimately caused the evacuation of tens of thousands of residents across Garden Grove and the neighboring communities, including some of our employees actually. And a state of emergency was declared in Garden Grove and in the county. So tonight we're here, we want to inform you of the hazardous materials that exist in Fountain Valley and how we're prepared to respond to those emergencies, potential emergencies. So our city's profile is a little bit different than the industrial setting of Garden Grove. We are fully urbanized, mostly residential, and are nearly built out, but we are not without hazardous materials risk. So the fire department currently oversees 168 permitted sites across the city, several of which are larger industrial and manufacturing operations. And that's exactly why sustained investment in prevention, permitting, inspections, and joint enforcement with the county is every bit as critical to community risk reduction as our actual response to these incidents. So it's also why the department's upcoming standards of cover and community risk assessment study is so timely. That analysis will formally evaluate the city's hazard profile, including hazmat risk, against our current staffing, response capabilities, and regional resource sharing arrangements. It will ensure our prevention and response posture keeps pace with the risks actually present in our community. Over the next few minutes, we'll walk you through two halves of our hazmat program. First, fire prevention, which is how we permit and inspect these facilities and how we partner with Orange County Environmental Health. And second, operations, how our firefighters are trained, how our regional hazmat teams are formulated, and how our dispatch procedures are set up. With that, I'd like to begin by handing it off to Scott Lyons, our fire prevention analyst, to talk about that fire prevention aspect.
Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon, Mayor, members of the council. My name is Scott Lyons. I'm the fire prevention analyst. I'll be presenting on behalf of Tang Nguyen, the fire marshal, and the hazmat specialist who's out on vacation right now. I'll give you an overview of the City of Fountain Valley's hazardous material program and work for the fire department does to keep the community safe. Not skipping, let's see. There we go. Okay. Across the city, we currently oversee 168 sites that store or handle hazardous materials. These range from familiar neighborhood businesses, gas stations, auto shops, and restaurants to larger industrial and manufacturing operations such as OC Sanitation, OC Water District, and Omni Metals. Over the next several slides, I'll walk through three key areas: how we permit and inspect these facilities under the fire code, how we partner with Orange County Environmental Health as part of the state CUPA program, and how we maintain real-time chemical data through CERS, the California Environmental Reporting System. Here's a snapshot and overview of the city. This is the layout of all 168 sites located in the city. You can see on the east side part along the Santa Ana River is a majority of our hazardous material storing sites. Also, you could notice up Brookhurst down the middle of the city map. That's the majority of restaurants and gas stations, but most of our sites are on the east side of the city.
And I think it's also fair to say that because why that area, there's a lot of it, because it's industrial area as well. It's less residential.
Yes, sir. That's our industrial area, not residential, on the east side. Facility compliance requires securing hazmat operational permits from Fountain Valley Fire for storing hazardous materials, managing compressed gases, and handling flammable or combustible liquids. Modern facilities utilizing battery energy storage systems, also known as BESS, must also secure these permits due to thermal risk. These hazmat facility operators must maintain strict safety infrastructure, including adhering to maximum allowable quantities, fire sprinkler systems, functional fire alarm systems, and installing secondary containment to prevent chemical leaks from containing drains or groundwater. To ensure continuous compliance, the fire department enforces a multi-tiered inspection schedule. Fire inspections, conducted every year to verify that all active life safety systems, including fire sprinklers, fire alarms, emergency equipment, secondary containment, and exit pathways are fully operational. Existing operational permits are also reviewed and renewed during this annual fire inspection. Hazmat inspections, conducted every 3 years to perform a deeper regulatory audit. This involves cross-referencing the facility's physical chemical inventory against reports in CERS, the California Environmental Reporting System, as well as auditing employee safety training documentation, site maps, and the business emergency plan to correct any drift between actual storage and official reporting. Joint facility inspections are conducted by Orange County Environmental Health, acting as the Certified Unified Program Agency, also known as the CUPA, to enforce 6 distinct regulatory elements. Our team takes direct responsibility for handling the first 2 highlighted programs requirements on this list. Specifically, we manage the hazardous materials business plan, ensuring that our inventory thresholds are carefully tracked and that detailed chemical disclosures and emergency response plans are accurately submitted. Furthermore, our team completely handles the hazardous materials management plan and inventory, collecting and maintaining precise data regarding the storage, the use, and the location of the hazardous materials to protect emergency responders and the public. Beyond the core responsibilities managed by our team, joint facility inspections evaluate 4 additional critical environmental safety programs. County inspectors review hazardous waste generator protocols and on-site treatment practices to confirm that chemical waste is safely handled and treated prior to disposal. They also monitor underground storage tanks, also known as USTs, to prevent subterranean leaks and enforce the Above Ground Petroleum Storage Act by evaluating spill prevention plans to large oil and fuel tanks. Finally, the county inspections cover the California Accidental Release Prevention Program, which establishes strict facility measures to prevent catastrophic toxic gas or chemical leaks. Based on the chemical inventory and discussion with Orange County health inspectors, we have classified our top 5 hazmat facilities to the following. Orange County Sanitation, the business focus is wastewater and waste treatment. The hazards are industrial chemicals, pathogens, and heavy metals. Orange County Water District, the business focus is groundwater replenishment and water purification. Hazards are large volumes of water treatment chemicals, acids, and caustics. Omni Metals, the business focus is industrial metal finishing. The hazards are toxic cyanides, heavy metals, and strong acids. The Yakult plant, the focus is large-scale beverage manufacturing. The hazards are hazardous ammonia, refrigeration, and caustic cleaning chemicals. Last is the First Element. The business focus is hydrogen fueling. The hazards are high-pressure hydrogen gas, storage, extremely flammable, risk of fire or explosion. All of these sites that we deemed the top 5 in our city, they're all up to date on our inspections. The annuals were all performed in 2025, and all of them are scheduled to have their hazmat 3-year inspection this year. They're scheduled for this year, so we're on track with those. Let me switch that. Our comprehensive permitting and layered inspection program ensures strict hazard oversight in Fountain Valley. By enforcing fire permits with explicit safety requirements for every hazmat facility, we maintain continuous monitoring through annual life safety inspections and our 3-year hazmat reviews to catch risks early. This robust local framework is strengthened by real-time chemical data sharing via SIRS, providing authorized responders with critical inventory information before arrival. Before entering an emergency scenes. Ultimately, our success relies on multi-agency coordination and working directly with Orange County Environmental Health. With our fire prevention strategies outlined, we will transition to field operations. I'll turn the presentation over to Chief Saiki to discuss hazmat response protocols.
Thank you.
Okay, we can talk a little bit about our operations as far as hazmat goes. So the Fountain Valley Fire Department maintains a layered approach to hazardous materials or hazmat emergencies. Every firefighter is trained at the hazardous materials first responder operational level, or hazmat FRO is what it's commonly referred as. And this also includes required annual refresher training. This training enables our crews to take immediate defensive action at any hazmat incident. For incidents requiring technician level intervention or a higher level of training and equipment, the city receives regional hazmat team coverage through the Orange County City Hazardous Materials Emergency Response Authority, also known as OCMRA. And then finally, dispatch and response criteria are governed by established policies at our dispatch center, and I'll go into these in a little bit. So these 3 elements provide the city with a rapid initial response and access to specialized regional resources at a fraction of the cost of maintaining a standalone hazmat team as a city. So I mentioned all firefighters are trained at hazmat first responder operational or hazmat FRO level. Just to go a little bit more into what that means, our firefighters are trained to recognize and identify hazardous materials and assess the threat to life, property, and the environment. They can isolate, deny entry, and establish control zones to protect the public. They can take defensive actions. Defensive is the key term, to contain a release from a safe distance and prevent its spread. They can initiate evacuations or shelter-in-place orders and make required notifications in coordination with our PD. And finally, they can support and integrate with the regional hazmat team upon their arrival. So a little bit about OCMRA. The cities of Anaheim and Huntington Beach operate under a JPA, forming OCMRA, and Fountain Valley is a subscribing city to that JPA alongside Brea, Costa Mesa, Fullerton, Garden Grove, Newport Beach, and the city of Orange. So OCMRA provides 2 dedicated hazmat materials response teams. One is in Anaheim, and that's a type 1 hazmat team, and one is in Huntington Beach, which they together can staff a type 1 hazmat team, and they will respond to all major hazmat incidents. Huntington Beach's unit is stationed at Lake Station. That's the station in downtown Huntington Beach, giving Fountain Valley a very quick response for technician level hazmat incidents. As far as the dispatching goes, Fountain Valley is dispatched by a regional dispatch center, also known as Metronet, and Metronet has procedures in place that establish a tiered response depending on the severity of the incident. So for a hazmat response, from time of dispatch that's known, a known threat to life and property, Metronet would dispatch the following units as an automatic aid response. So it'd be 2 fire engines, 1 ladder truck, 1 battalion chief, both hazmat units from Anaheim and Huntington Beach, and 1 ambulance. So, and also if our regional Akamura hazmat teams are unavailable, Metronet would dispatch a hazmat response from the OCFA, which is not part of Akamura, but has their own Type 1 hazmat team. So what does this mean for Fountain Valley? Nuts and bolts. With our training, every on-duty firefighter can safely manage the critical first minutes of a hazmat incident. With pre-established regional agreements and automatic aid backup, we will have rapid technician-level response for hazmat incidents that occur in Fountain Valley. The Akamura agreement provides a Type 1 hazmat team without the cost of equipping, staffing, and training a city-operated hazmat team. And finally, having standardized dispatch levels ensures the appropriate level of resources are responding from the initial dispatch. So in closing, I want to leave you with this. The hazardous materials in our city are not unique or specific to Fountain Valley. Every community in Orange County and throughout California have those gas stations, refrigeration systems, water treatment plants, or water treatment chemicals, and industrial operations that deal with many chemicals. These are the materials that power these businesses and allow them to operate in our city, and they're safely managed every day. So what matters is what our city does about them. So Fountain Valley, every one of our 168 sites operate under a permit with enforceable safety requirements. Every facility is inspected annually for life safety and in depth every 3 years to verify those reported chemicals that are reported to the SIRS system. Every firefighter is trained and able to respond to these incidents on that first responder operational level, so in a defensive posture. And when the incident exceeds our capabilities, we have those 2 regional hazmat teams and automatic aid that stand behind us to help assist us in those incidents. So these layers exist to protect our residents, our businesses, and our first responders. So no city can promise zero risk with the hazardous materials that exist in the city, but through prevention, partnership, and preparation, Fountain Valley is as ready as it can be. So with that, thank you for your time tonight, and if you have any questions.
Thanks so much, Chief. Really appreciate the summary. Open up to Council. Councilman Grandis.
Yeah, Chief, so thank you so much. I was the one who had requested this as a study session, and I'll be honest, I was looking for where do we have issues within the city for explosions. So I was looking for a one slide. You went into so much depth, and I feel so much better about things, knowing all the details behind everything that goes into this from beginning to end. This is one of the most thorough reports I've seen in my 6 years up here. So this is really good, and I appreciate all the effort that went into this. So thank you for doing that. You went over and above.
Vice Mayor Harper.
Thanks for the report. You mentioned there's an upcoming study with the statement of cover and community risk assessment. Can you tell us more about that?
Yes, I'll let the chief go into that.
Yeah, thanks for the question. And a lot of credit to Scott and Tim for the work that they put into this. It's a very comprehensive report. So the standards of cover and the community risk assessment that, as you all know, is commissioned and off and running. We've initiated that study. It's often referred to primarily as a standards of cover, but truly it's a community risk assessment first. So what that does is it's a deep, deep, deep dive into what our risk profile is here in the city and what all the hazards are that are in our city, whether it's something such as an explosion or even just a fire risk or a building collapse risk, earthquakes, floods, literally anything that could potentially harm the visitors and residents of the community.
Yeah, I feel like I've seen that before. Is it a due every couple of years or?
No, so the study that we just commissioned is the very first time that we've ever done this particular study relative to, so these are part and parcel studies, right? So in order for the standards of cover to be performed and then ultimately provide conclusion about the fire department and its ability to serve the community, they first have to arrive at a conclusion about the risk profile and level of the city.
But didn't we do a study that's
So
similar?
I think you reference the hazard action
Mitigation.
plan.
Yeah, hazard mitigation plan.
Yes.
Those
Oh,
are
okay.
required every 5 years you're supposed to update them for grant purposes, et cetera.
So that's different than this statement of cover risk assessment study?
Hazard mitigation plan would fall more into the realm of emergency management or disaster preparedness, which we're also addressing right now. The CRA and the standards of cover that I'm speaking about right now is specific to the fire department. Our ability to serve the community from a fire, EMS, hazardous materials, urban search and rescue standpoint.
Got
that
it,
type of
got it.
stuff,
Okay,
yeah.
so I misinterpreted it then. Okay, now I know what you're talking about.
They can be confusing, maybe even a little bit synonymous, but they are two different studies. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Yes, sure.
There. The hydrogen station, once in a while I see it looks like steam or smoke coming out of the top of it. Can you tell me what that is?
Likely evaporation, but if I can,
It's just the off-gassing of sorry, yes, that it's just the off-gassing of the overpressurizing of the system. That's normal operations for it, but yeah, sometimes it'll, if there's a lot of static in the air too, it'll spark and you'll see a flame.
Oh.
That's totally normal operations. We'll get called for it a lot to come out, but that's how that system maintains a safe operating pressure within the tanks and the pumps.
Got it. Okay, thanks.
As somebody who used that station for a decade or so, you see the flame up there a lot, and sometimes that flame gets really large, but it's normal.
So I just wanted to make an observation. It seems like in the last couple months, there have been more major issues with the Guard Grove site, GKN, and then the Lineage building in Boyle Heights and the solar panels catching fire, and then now dealing with that kind of a building, that poor community in Boyle. I mean, horrible disaster that just keeps seeming to find new ways to become a nightmare. And then a recent fire, I think it was in Santa Ana. I know these things sort of, they're random, but I think part of what I'm thinking, it seems like we have got our city and our properties really well managed and have responses in place if something should happen. But do you have any thoughts? I mean, when you see these happening in other cities, in kind of reflecting on Fountain Valley, is there anything that comes to your mind?
I have a lot of thoughts,
Yeah.
actually. It's I was just having this conversation earlier, and frankly, I think we're in a really good spot in the sense that we are doing our deep dive right now into where our fire department is and what we're prepared to address. What I will say is this. I've been around to a few different departments now, a few different cities. I have some pretty good operational perspective at this point from various counties and operational areas. Orange County does an amazing job at what I call playing in the sandbox well together, and from the fire service perspective. We all work very, very well together. We have very solid automatic aid agreements in place, and that's everything from your structure fires to your hazardous materials, all those types of things. So with that, you get your closest unit response at any given moment for that appropriate type of emergency to minimize damage and destruction and death and all those other things. Now, I feel very confident in not only our ability as what I would call an all-risk fire department to be able to respond and deal with any one of these types of emergencies because of all those reasons I just mentioned. The term all-risk fire department can be a little bit ambiguous. Where I started my career truly had within 13 stations every single specialty program that the fire service has to offer. We don't here. We're obviously a two-station department. However, because of our auto aid agreements and our expanded training and skill sets that we do in conjunction with our area partners, we are prepared to deal with and respond in some respect operationally or tactically to every type of emergency. So that's the good thing for the city, for the community, for the residents, and ultimately the entire regional area. Now, what's interesting to me as a fire chief and somebody who's been doing this for almost 25 years now is a lot of times once our study's done, I'll bring to you conclusions, right, and recommendations for where our fire department is, maybe some needs that we have, and what the future looks like for expansion, et cetera. You will hear some people ask questions such as, well, I don't understand, right? Fires have gone down. There's fire sprinklers now. There's very innovative, modern, technologically driven alarm systems, et cetera, et cetera. That's true. However, what I would offer is this. For the last at least decade, I've seen, I couldn't even count how many large-scale, brand-new buildings with all of these most modern systems in them still burn almost entirely to the ground, or massive property loss, high-value loss, those types of things. So in my experience, I've been in a lot of these fires, and I have seen those fire suppression systems work. They don't always put the fire out. Sometimes they control them until we get there to deal with them. But the reality is that the loading that's in these buildings, whether it's from a volume standpoint or the type of material that's inside these buildings, is just absolutely overwhelming these systems. So the reality is that what we do is really hard. And in order to get the number of resources, whether it's the equipment, the hard equipment, fire engines, water hoses, all those things, and then the personnel, is very complex. And to manage all of those resources, I mean, those very large scale, what we call wide-rise buildings, no different from a high-rise building per se, or even a wildland incident. It's a big orchestrated effort that takes a lot of time, energy, equipment, resources, and ultimately money from a proactive standpoint. It is getting harder and harder to manage. We've all heard the climate change terms, and that's a whole other side of the conversation. But the reality is that there's a lot of volatility that's going on in the emergency response world, and we're truly trying to keep up with it. So to answer your question, every one of those incidents has a different reason why it happened. Some are man-made, if you will, arson, those types of things for whatever reason, but then some of them are just sheer accident. The one that was over here recently in our neighboring city, the 3-alarm building over there, if I remember correctly, was the result of spontaneous combustion in oily rags. And that happens. It happens a lot. So, the reality is that, yes, we have these systems in place. They are good, but they aren't stopping these big incidents. And, yes, insurance is a thing, but the reality is the way our insurance system works is if all these buildings just burn to the ground, we can't financially keep up with that, right? And there's ultimately going to be impact to the taxpayer, et cetera. So there is a reason the fire service exists. There's a reason it has to be comprehensive and prepared to respond quickly and efficiently to these incidents to minimize all of that for our broader economy and everything else. So obviously for our city, our goal is to minimize that so we can keep our tax base and our residents and firefighters safe. That's another component of this too, right? We have to be able to get in there safely in a calculated fashion and deal with these emergencies. So we do our best in a very tactful, calculated way to mitigate these emergencies as they come up, but they're not stopping, that's for sure.
Great. Thanks so much, Chief. Any other comments from council? Great job. All right. Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, next we're going to have allowable uses for low and moderate income